was thinking boredom. Why was I thinking about boredom? Nah, not because I was bored, but because I was interested in the thought of being bored. Now, why was I interested in the thought of being bored? Good question that I'm coincidentally asking myself. What is boredom? I would go ahead and say it's when you have absolutely nothing to do. When you were a little kid and you were bored, usually you either begged your parents if you can go over a friend's house, if you can go to the movies, or you just take it upon yourself to go outside and play in the woods. Hell, that's what I always did. Normal kids, at least, would play sports, hang out with friends, go skateboarding, bike riding, and no, I'm not going to say that I wasn't one of those normal kids and I did weird things because, truthfully, I did a lot of those things and more. I used to snowboard when I was younger. I used to pretend I was a superhero character and play in the woods. I used to skateboard all the time and bike ride, and I always used to bust my legs up all the time and get totally cut up. But back in those days, it was epic. I'd always go outside. I'd always be in at night playing video games, but during the day I was out enjoying the weather, assuming it wasn't raining. Back when I was little and I couldn't really afford any games, and couldn't really go anywhere unless I asked my parents if I can get a ride. I was so bored. Usually I would play with Legos and read magazines and things. I have a couple of rituals that I've kind of maintained ever since I was a little kid that I'll do when I'm extremely bored, and I'll get into that in a few minutes. I generally go in my closet, and let me go ahead and show you guys where I've been putting my phone here. This is a huge little shelf here. That's my regular NES, my first console I've ever owned. And I have a bunch of magazines here. Now, it may not look like a lot. I'm sure there's a lot crazier of collections out there, but I've had those since probably the early 90s. Those are a bunch of player's guides for games I don't have anymore. Nintendo Powers, I know those don't exist anymore. Electronic Gaming Monthly, basically just a bunch of game magazines. Now, I guess you can go ahead and say that's slight hoarderish, but if you don't get it out of hand and you don't constantly think about shopping for those magazines, then it's okay if it's kept in check. When I'm really bored, I tend to come in my closet and look at my old magazines. I also look through some game boxes and stuff. That's why the more and more we start getting into a digital age, and notice now a lot of the manuals are digital and they're not in the boxes anymore. It's kind of depressing. I always used to love opening up my game cases and reading the manuals. Now all they have is either an online pass or for Nintendo on the Wii U, they'll have that little Club Nintendo card where they'll advertise other games, but they'll also give you a code for that one. Which, that's a whole other story. I like how Club Nintendo does those surveys to earn tokens. That's awesome. But, yeah, so when I get really bored, I usually just go in my closet and kind of just look around and see what I can find. Just little knickknacks that bring back good memories. Video games, to me, just like any little knickknack, brings back memories if I had it back in the day. Like if I was a little kid in the car on the way to Florida, going to Disney World, and I was playing with a little toy car. You know, if I have the toy car, I'd look at it and be like, oh, I remember going on that trip. It's funny how little things bring back memories that you wouldn't otherwise remember. As far as gaming, being bored on a gaming perspective, it kind of drives me crazy. I honestly don't know what's worse, being really bored, as in having nothing to do or play electronically, or having too much to do. Now, let me explain. When I have too much to do, I get so stressed by the fact that I have a ton of games that I'd like to play, if not finish or work on, that I end up doing absolutely nothing. Like, more often than not, I'll have like 5 to 10 games that I'm currently working on, which, by the way, that's a bad idea. That's a little bit of an extreme example, but I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people that actually buy games and they're still in the shrink wrap and they haven't even opened them yet and they start piling on with that. Let me tell you why I think that happens. People generally buy video games when they come out, when they're overhyped. It's either when they're overhyped, like Battlefield or Call of Duty or Assassin's Creed, or it's a series that people particularly like. Like, I'm a huge Red Faction fan. I absolutely love Final Fantasy. When those games come out, I usually just go out and buy them right away, even if I don't have any time. And I just put them down, I never get to them. Now, here's a little thing that I have that I do that I really wish I didn't. I tend to buy games because I know I'm going to eventually want to play them. When I buy new games, they give me something to look forward to. It's something exciting. Because generally, I don't look forward to going out. I don't look forward to like going to a movie or going on vacation. I wish I did. When I'm there and I'm doing those activities, I have a good time. But up until the point where I'm like already like comfortable in my own home, I don't even want to think about doing those things. It could be because I'm a little, I guess, introverted. It could be part depression. It could be part, I guess I'm just boring of a person. I don't know. But that's just the way I am. When I'm doing those things once again, I do enjoy them. So I don't think it's all that stuff. But what I'll do is I'll buy a game and I'll almost not want to beat it. So I'll play it like little by little and I'll put it down. I'll move on to something else as other games come out. And then I'll either forget about that game completely and I'll like sell it because it's been months at that point. Or I'll just sit there and not even touch it ever. It's kind of weird why I do that. I don't know if you guys have ever been in that situation where you own a game and you get it because either you want something to look forward to or because you've really been looking forward to the game. And you like it so much that you almost try to play it in little doses because you don't want to finish it because then you'll be bored and then you'll have nothing to look forward to and then you'll be like bored and miserable. So you sit it down, you go play other things with that excitement in the back of your mind, and then the game pretty much fades into nothing, and then the game's pretty much nothingness. It's kind of weird how that happens. Like right now, I'm currently working on Dead Rising 3, haven't even opened Need for Speed Rivals, Battlefield 4 multiplayer and single player campaign, Rise, which I'm actually currently playing, having a pause in my room. Let's see, Killzone Shadowfall, Knack, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, Mario 3D World. Yeah, I have a ton of games that I'm currently working on, and I really don't have too much time anymore these days. So generally, I've been trying to work on my single players and get those done, and then, you know, when I have all those done, then I'll start working on multiplayer and stuff, and I'll enjoy that in the long run until, like, other games come out. Generally speaking, I would recommend when you get a game, just play it through and enjoy it. Don't do what I do. I mean, I don't know if you have the same kind of feelings with games as I do like that, but like gaming to me is like the anti-boredom. It's the anti-drug and the anti-boredom. And for some reason it turns into an anti-boredom to a boredom type of deal. I don't know, it's weird. Like the more a game sits, the less I care about it. But at the same time, if I play it too much, I get kind of stressed because I don't want to beat it. Because at the same time, a $60 game is a lot of money. With tax, you're looking at almost $64.50. That's a lot of money for a damn game. Like these days, I would never buy a game at $64 and finish it in one or two sittings. I just can't get myself to do that. Unless I bought the game solely for multiplayer and I just couldn't care less about the single player campaign, kind of like Battlefield 4, then I don't care. But if it's like a big game that kind of builds itself on its single player, I kind of don't want to finish it because then I'm afraid I'll never go back to it. So it's this like vicious cycle of me buying games and not finishing a lot of them that sometimes I almost have to force myself to play them. So sometimes it's almost worse to have so much to do than it is to not have anything to do. Because when I don't have anything to do, I kind of expand on my options a little bit and find new and more interesting things to keep myself entertained, whether it's writing a song, looking through my closet, getting nostalgic with Christmas movies, watching Netflix. There's a bunch of things I guess I do when it comes to being bored. What I would suggest, if you're like me with that kind of shit, finish your games. Just finish them and say screw it. If a game's got multiplayer, don't worry that you beat the single player. I call it COD syndrome. You beat the single player, and all the games left is the multiplayer. That's all that's ever supported with games, if you think about it. Very rarely do single-player games get expanded. I mean, Bioshock Infinite was one of the more recent ones that did, and I know Grand Theft Auto 5, they're currently working on story DLC, which, by the way, I asked for that for Christmas because I never got to play it, so I'm going to check that one out. But, yeah, gaming is an interesting medium. Keeps me entertained, stresses me out, and bores me at the exact same time. Thanks for watching, guys, and tune in for another episode of You Know What I Was Thinking. Never know what to expect.